Good afternoon, everyone. Europe's worst famine, 1300s, caused by massive floods, possibly mud floods. Roman mosaic floors discovered under vineyards. Italy. Over 9 million U.S. families fear they can't afford food next month. At the same time, farmers euthanizing 170,000 pigs per day. Disconnect supply-demand. World Trade Organization's goods trade barometer, lowest ever recorded. And 1919 is not 2020. Globalization, financialization, bye-bye. Bring in the blockchain, corporate and government interests. Chainlink combining public and permissioned blockchain, meaning private blockchain, to facilitate more institutional involvement in DeFi, decentralized finance. It's all about the food. You're going to have to pay more for it. Inbound date 2024. This is what the preparation is. This is why society is being engineered. October 2024. In the year 2020, it's so important to keep your body functioning at optimal performance. And collagen may be the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and essentially the glue that holds it all together. Even worse, various lifestyle factors you may have been exposed to, such as poor diet, smoking, pollution, stress, excess sun exposure. All of these can deplete your collagen levels even faster. And the year-by-year escalating loss of the most abundant protein in our bodies is the key reason that we start to look and feel older. When you're middle-aged, you're only producing half the collagen you did in your youth. My focus is about digestive health because the change in our diets from foods being unavailable, moving to seasonal foods, and the entire spectrum of availability of foods changing. There's so much more to talk about with the benefits of collagen. You can visit healthwithadapt2030.com to learn more. The link's in the description box below. And history's about to repeat, so we might as well look back in history and see what happened. Now, this planetary alignment in 2024 is actually going to be similar to what happened in 79 AD, one of Europe's worst famines likely caused by devastating floods. So what triggered the massive floods? Because using tree rings, they found this quote-unquote great famine, 13, 14, 15, 16, was caused by a 700-year wet cycle that returned. So it was the wettest in 700 years that caused, that would make sense because you just couldn't grow crops. Everything would be too wet. They didn't have fungicides. Their crops collapsed. In 3 years of no crops back then, well, even 3 years of no crops now, it would be very difficult for society to continue to function at the present rate. So the accompanying graph here with the article 1741 is the opposite, where it went into a drought. But in 1315, we saw it got incredibly wet. So this transition from warm to cool, dry to wet is a natural cycle. And the article continues here talking about 1315 to 1317, the worst population collapse in the continent's history. So we can almost flip these dates here and say 2021 to 2024 is going to be considered the new worst population collapse because there's so many more people in Europe right now, and when the same exact thing happens here moving forward, this is the reason governments are transitioning us into a more controlled society. Time's up. Mass crop losses, skyrocketing food prices. Yeah, 2.0 inbound. It's not about the economy. They're sacrificing the economy. That's the thing. And if you look back in history here, these pristine ancient Roman mosaic floors unearthed beneath Italian vineyards, apparently 3rd century AD. Now, the depth of the soil here could be from natural accumulation. You know, dust blows through the air every year, and if you go back to an area that you've been camping and then you go back next year, you see there's quite a bunch that you have to clean out if you let it go for an entire year. Nature does reclaim quite quickly. So you have to wonder, the mud extruded to cover the floor, how this occurred, and this also could be accompanied by another previous event in the late 400s stretching through the 500s, extreme rain, volcanism, etc. So you do see some patterns of things being buried on our planet with these same cycles occurring in the sun, on the earth, and the magnetism from the four gas giants. Now add into this twist here, 9 million families fear they cannot afford food next month. At the apex of development and economy on a planet where the reserve currency is used for the planet, how is this even possible? How is this possible? Families, including children, experiencing food insecurity. These are words that are used for African security of food, not American. And then add into this, 18 million are only somewhat confident about their food security, compared to just the 9 million that are not at all confident. If your food prices quadruple, how confident will you be to feed your family daily? And then the disconnect here is farmers are euthanizing millions of pigs, 170,000 a day. Now, if we can suddenly get everybody to completely shift their life on a dime to track everybody because of a little bug in the air, why could we not shift the food supply chain that quickly in order so everybody could be fed? I just don't get the disconnect there too. It's planned almost, in my opinion, to remove food from the equation because they brought the control measures in so quickly. You can't even go into stores now without jumping through a bunch of hoops. But no, they can't get the pigs. They can't send them to another location. We can't reroute trucks and traffic to get these animals to another place for processing. It seems to be purposeful. Control the food, control the people. And to my best opinion, the reason all this is happening. Those four gas giants out there making a perfect square with the earth in the center and the sun behind us coming around in 2024 is the reason that the world is being locked down. This is going to usher in some incredible tectonic, volcanic, and possibly flood activity from beneath the earth, the water oozing out as well as above, and the cloud cells and jet streams shifting into extremes that are so far beyond what we can comprehend. In a matter of a year, it turned into a 700-year rain cycle that absolutely destroyed European agriculture for 3 years. That was an onset of just a year. So why would it not be such a stretch to think, gee, we still have 4 years before this could onset? Not enough food. And if you think the craziness you've seen in the cities the last few days is any indication, it's just all the economy boiling from under, all the hopelessness and people not having jobs, etc. That's nothing in comparison when people would be hungry doing the same exact thing. There'd be a whole new level up on that. So looking at the drivers of growth and globalization, financialization over the last 75, even 100 years, that's gone. The thing to understand, it has to continually grow to expand. So we've reached past that point. There's no more expansion. It's going to be full contraction from this point. And then the World Trade Organization jumping in with the goods trade barometer, reflecting the exact same thing. Now understand the barometer has only been around since 2016, but if we were at the apex and continuing to expand, this thing should not be at a negative. Everything across the planet is collapsed at the moment in terms of trade, finance, manufacturing, banking, and GDP. Enter Hong Kong. This is going to be another contentious issue here as trade status is removed and more financial lockups occur across Asia, shipping delays, contraction, etc. Hong Kong GDP, it's going to continue down from there. And read the accounts of how many people are trying to exit out of there now. So good article here continues. 1919 is not 1920 because the way we progress with this globalization, there's really no overlap from 1919 to 20 to try even figure out where we're going to go with financial structure. The Federal Reserve is at its end. All it can do is print away and try to buy defaulted whatever it is, bonds, securities, ETFs, real estate, and everything in between to try to prop the market up. There's nothing left. They can print into infinitum for a while, and then we start to get into hyperinflationary event after a deflation. Because looking at this national debt, even last week when I did this, it was at 25,100,000,000,000, and now it's at 25,700,000,000,000 just a week later. The only thing central banks can do is print into infinitum, and that's, the end result of that. We've seen it through history again and again and again and again. The end of the Roman Empire when their currency collapsed too due to debasement and removing silver out of the coinage. And enter chainlink. If we don't need silver coins, we don't need paper dollars anymore. We can go completely digital. And the naysayers over the last years have been saying, well, this will never work because governments aren't into it. Corporate and institutional buyers aren't there. It's never going to fly. Enter Chainlink, the world's first hybrid blockchain Oracle integration. So this network now combines public and private or quote unquote permissioned blockchain sections. Companies can utilize it. They can offer their own tokens as well. And notice here, it facilitates more institutional involvement in DeFi, which is decentralized finance. So now you can bring in the banks, the corporate bonds. You can bring everything back in DeFi and just erase everything that you know in terms of paper dollars. But the one elusive chimera out there in the landscape is the Bitcoin ETF. We know as soon as this is manipulated, it's game on. So the SEC confirmed that Renaissance Technologies medallion funds have access to Bitcoin futures scene. Now that means it can be manipulated, so can the price of Bitcoin. So once you add in DeFi on the corporate end and the institutional end and the central banking end, we're sort of back to where we were just a few days ago, but completely digital now. All just in time for the 2024 alignments. So how prepared are you for emergencies? You're truly going to need this to bridge yourself to self-sufficiency. And if you have long-term food storage, you're far ahead of most of the population of any country that you're in. It's about seeing the trend and how to thrive during the changes. The link's in the description box below, as well as links to all of tonight's stories included in the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.